right here.
Mr. Secretary, Louis Martinez with ABC News. First, a question to General Kane, sir. In your personal opinion, were the risks of the Strait of Hormuz being closed because of the conflict, were they mitigated early enough in part of the decision-making process to lead up to the decision to take action against Iran? And in your opinion, is Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz? We just heard the Secretary say that Iran is letting the ships through, which would imply that potentially it's not just. The Secretary also said that the U.S. That the strait is open. You did say that, sir. But in your opinion, sir, how can the U.S. ensure safe passage? Mr. Secretary, can you say today that the United States achieved, the administration achieved the military goals that you've constantly delineated? But strategically, is that a victory because of that? And also, you said earlier that the president chose mercy. But you yourself had said 3 weeks ago that we will give no quarter to Iranian troops. How do you correlate those two? And do you think that your comments may have put American troops at risk?
If you want clear, no-nonsense breakdowns of what's really happening in American politics, make sure you hit like and subscribe right now. Because what just happened between Pete Hegseth and an ABC reporter says a lot about the media narrative and how it's being challenged in real time.
No. I try to be nice up here, but you did listen to what I said, right? I laid out the objectives. We believe we've accomplished them, and it's a historic military victory. And President Trump has the option as the commander-in-chief to compel an adversary to the table, which is precisely what he did. And at the end, he chose to say, you know what, I'd rather talk to you at the table than obliterate your capability to export oil and fund your terror regime. So he did make that choice. That was his choice. He was a president of peace, and he's been willing to make those really tough calls that the American people elected him to do. Nothing we've done, not a single thing we've done, this is a typical, of course it's ABC, not a single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way. We've only set our troops up to harm Iranian military capabilities, which they've done to devastating fashion and to great success. Mr. Chairman, you had a point.
There's a lot in that question. I'd love to take that offline and answer it, but I'm struggling to find exactly what your question was, and that's probably me, not you. Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman, it was an indictment framed as a question, so you're forgiven for not understanding. Go ahead, please. No, you've had your chance. Go ahead, sir.
In this latest press exchange, an ABC reporter pressed U.S. officials with a series of questions about Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, and whether the administration truly achieved its military objectives. Now, on the surface, that sounds fair, but listen closely because the framing matters. The reporter wasn't just asking for clarification. The questions bundled together multiple assumptions that risks weren't handled early, that U.S. messaging was inconsistent, and that prior statements may have endangered troops. That's when Pete Hegseth stepped in and pushed back hard. He responded directly, "You did listen to what I said, right?" And from there he laid out a very clear position. Objectives were defined, and according to him, those objectives were achieved. He didn't hedge. He didn't walk it back. He called it what he believes it is, a historic military victory. According to Hegseth, the strategy was simple. Apply overwhelming pressure on Iran's military capabilities, force them into a position where negotiation becomes the only option, and then let leadership decide the next step. And that's where the key point comes in. He framed President Trump's decision not as weakness, but as controlled strength. The idea that America had the ability to escalate further but chose diplomacy from a position of dominance, that's a very different narrative than what some in the media are suggesting. Hegseth also directly rejected the idea that any rhetoric or action put American troops at greater risk, saying clearly that operations were focused on degrading Iranian capabilities, not exposing U.S. forces. Then things got even more telling. When the questioning continued, it wasn't really a single question anymore. It was a layered critique. Even the chairman acknowledged it was difficult to unpack, and Hegseth called it out for what he saw it as, an indictment framed as a question. That moment right there highlights a bigger issue. Are these briefings about getting answers or pushing narratives? Because there's a difference between holding leaders accountable and shaping a storyline before the answer is even given. From a broader perspective, what we're seeing is a clash between two interpretations. One side says this was a decisive use of force that achieved its goals and opened the door to diplomacy. The other side questions whether the outcome is as clear-cut as it's being presented. And that's where you, the viewer, come in. Look at the facts, listen to both sides, and decide for yourself whether this was strategic strength or something else. If you want more breakdowns like this, where we cut through the noise and focus on what's actually being said, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Watch the next video on your screen right now, because this story is far from over.